probably a minute for the what you do all day question to explain a little bit about yourself, and in particular your role within the organisation you represent. So we'll start with Leanne here.
Okay, thank you. My name is Leanne Lowland. I'm the CEO of Nordic Content Protection. I'm a former police officer, been working at Nordic Content Protection for the latest 6 years. Nordic Content Protection, I don't know if anyone heard about it. I know you have. Okay, that's good. A few ones. We're a non-profit member organization based in the Nordics. So we have paying members that finance our efforts towards fighting piracy on behalf of our members.
Okay, thank you very much. Hendrik.
Yeah. First off, thank you for everybody who's still here. Yeah, I work for BN Media. BN is a broadcaster of sports and live sports and entertainment. We operate in 5 continents in about 46 countries, predominantly focusing on media.
And finally, Yannick.
Absolutely. No, again, great to be here and thanks for those sticking around. I guess we spared the most engaging and interesting topic of the day for the last one, but let's make piracy interesting, at least a discussion about it. Yeah, Yannick Rampe, General Manager OTT at OneFootball. OTT, one of 3 business verticals at the company, and if we would put OneFootball, what it is, in a nutshell, we self-proclaim to be the world's leading digital football media platform. There are a bunch of words in there. World, so global company, globally operating. Football, a single vertical, one sports only, but fully dedicated to the world of football fans. And ultimately, it's a platform, so it's about matching supply and demand, content supply, those who produce and own content, and on the other side, those who create it, so the football fans. So a bit of matchmaking between those 2 parties. And ultimately, when it comes to OTT, so OTT has been the first direct-to-consumer vertical of the platform, where we say, okay, initially and historically, OneFootball has been an ad-supported and ad-funded business, but with an install base of millions and millions of football fans having access to them in their back pocket, we said, okay, look, we can create so much more value for third-party content owners, so getting into direct-to-consumer and to paid products, and this is what I'm heading OTT, so we are carrying third-party broadcasters, free commercial or paid broadcasters, and distributing them.
So do you have within OneFootball, do you have the rights via third parties to premium games, for example, Premier League, Bundesliga, etc.?
I mean, we have rights, but not media rights, but distribution rights. So we, for example, are not allowed to touch the content. We are just getting one step closer to the...
Okay, so you're aggregating, in other words.
Yeah, so I don't want to speak in rights or competitions, but rather partners, so Sky, The Zone, Novo, the obvious ones. We have all carriage agreements with...
No, understood. Right, let's sort of have a look at the various sort of threat that piracy is, our panellists are facing from piracy, I should say. Stian, start with you. The Nordic market, lots of things, one thing about Scandinavia, one of them is Wizzy broadband, and I'm guessing that fast broadband equals opportunity for pirates. So how are you dealing with that?
Well, that's correct. Mediavision released a report this week stating that 5 million individuals in age between 15 and 74 are using some form of illegal live TV. And that's an enormous amount. That's an increase of 400,000 individuals the latest year. Last year it was a bit low. We see the younger population is the driver behind the increase. We see it, and on average, they have 52% of the population has somehow some connection or have one or more subscriptions.
And do you have an idea as to whether that's they just don't care, or that they don't have the money? So let's get the pirate option because that's cheaper than paying a subscription to Viaplay, to Alenta, or whoever it might be.
I'm sure price has something to do with it, of course, but you also get all the content you need in one platform, in one subscription.
I have to say, the one thing that Pirates for me have going for them is that they're actually fantastic aggregators. You know, they put all the content, and these days it's not just the premium sports. If you've got kids, they've got something for them too.
You got everything. You have
Yeah.
everything that our members sell to their customers. The Pirates have. They have everything, absolutely everything. Everything from Disney, Netflix, Prime Video, and so forth.
And that must make things so difficult, because if there's, for the sake of, I'm trying to think of an example here, if Disney doesn't have the rights to a particular series in the Nordic region, well, presumably the Pirates, well, they just grab it from somewhere else.
Correct. They jump where the fence is low,
Yeah.
and they steal the content and distribute it to their customers all over the world.
And I sense, you know, both through the Media Vision report and other things, that this is a scenario which is getting worse rather than getting better. These things go through phases, but right now the technology, which is technically available to us all, the pirates are really taking advantage of that.
Yeah, that's true. One level, one is hacked, and it's easy for them to get content out of these VMs and so forth. So, yeah.
Henrik, I think you mentioned 46 countries, territories that VM Sports content is available in. How, I don't know, where are the hotspots, or is it actually not necessarily a market where you're targeting? I'm thinking of the UK, where I guess if I was to go into the right pub on a Saturday afternoon in the football season, I can see VM Sports content.
Well, the thing is though, we don't have the rights. We don't broadcast any rights in the UK. But
that doesn't stop the Pirates, of course.
No. But it's true. If you ask anybody in the UK, do you know beIN Sports, and if they say yes, then often that's an indication that they have seen our channels through Piracy. But our markets are the Middle East and North Africa, predominantly, also APAC. And yeah, in terms of your question, piracy is extremely prevalent over there. It differs per country, but yeah, you go to any. I mean, as Dion is saying, piracy is popular in the Nordics. It's popular in the UK. But if you go to any market or souk or any open public marketplace in MENA, you can just go and you can buy an IPTV receiver, a set-top box that allows you to watch most of the channels.
And do people know what they're buying? You know, on the outside, you can see the lineup. Oh, looks like a pretty good offer. But do they know that it's a pretty good offer, which is arguably too good to be true, as they say?
Yeah, no. I mean, if they have our channels, if they've got Sky still, I mean, people love to watch sports in our markets, like everywhere else. And so they know if it has our channels, that it will be good, and they know that there's no doubts about that. People know what they're doing. It's just quite a bit cheaper. And yeah, and in terms of content, indeed, you get everything together as well.
Nice to hear. Yannick, how do you see it from your perspective?
I mean, I think the guys touched on a couple of very critical points, including the fact that I think that's the reason why we call it digital piracy, because the digitalization has really accelerated just accessibility to piracy, even as simple as removing hardware requirements on both sides of the consumer and on the pirates. Previously, you might need a set-top box, which was some adoption barrier of piracy. I mean, it's the touch of a button today to have access. But I think truth of the matter is that ultimately, and I think you said it, they are solving, or the pirates are quote-unquote solving, for the main consumption barriers on the consumer side, which is discovery and which are cost. So it's free. Whether you pay with your data or with your credit card, doesn't matter, but there's always a cost. but they are aggregating in one place, so discoverability is pretty much solved. And outside of privacy, we are facing really a fractured content landscape, and it's free. So I think I actually like the composition of this panel, because for me it's really like an orchestrated effort that is needed in order to solve this. We can talk about legal frameworks and the enforcement of such. We can talk about the data security technology. But I think what we can't miss is also the product innovation, because those first two things are not solving the root cause. Why consumers obviously or apparently feel to be forced into piracy, because, I don't know, they can't find, they can't afford, or they can't access what they want.
And I guess, you know, we often hear about the cost of living crisis. If we were to, and it actually came out, I think the panel I chaired earlier on with Bango, the sheer cost when you add up all of the subscriptions, and whilst I guess probably us lot in this room can afford to pay for the subscriptions we want to, there's many people who can't, yet these will be people who want to see ice hockey, they want to see football, they want to see golf, cricket, motor racing, whatever it might be, and the pirates are in part removing a cost barrier for them.
Yeah, of course.
But I think it's not about that consumers are not willing to pay. I think there is proven willingness to pay for digital content out there. It just has to provide utility and value. And I think this is where also the industry can innovate on the product. We brought some data to the table. I just have also one data point. We see, because we can track illegitimate access attempts, right, in the field via VPN networks or similar means. And for certain events that can make up to 20% of the access attempts. And it's actually a key performance metric, an indicator for us to deny those ones. But we also have, and I think we can score, or broadcasters can really score with ease and convenience, because just as an example, we are carrying Sky in Germany. They are selling their matches from Bundesliga, from German Cup via single game pay-per-views. At the same time, there are the public broadcasters showing the same match, and we are doing 4 digits in sales for that match, even though it's freely available, but they are paying for it. So I think
Attract a different set of commentators or something. It's sometimes,
it is, but
sometimes it's the
I don't think that makes a difference.
or the content discovery for the whichever broadcaster. It's so bad they can't find it.
That's the content discovery, and then okay, it like 3 clicks and 10 seconds. And you have access, you did all the purchase and everything, so I think...
So are you saying here that in many ways the pirates are almost, we sit on places like this and have panels about content discovery, are we saying that the pirates are actually sometimes getting it better than the legitimate pay TV operators?
Yeah, but that's unfair advantage, but from the consumer perspective, they are solving for a bunch of issues that the consumer might have.
I think it's worth mentioning that traditionally piracy is seen as a way to get paid TV content, but with a low quality, or with a time delay, or or it will stop working after 10 minutes, and you have to reboot your device. But that's not the case anymore at all. Quality is extremely good. We also our channels are available to card sharing. Card sharing is a different way of doing piracy. It's basically you get the channels through satellite, DTH, but they have compromised the conditional access security system. So you get the same channels as anybody who would pay for satellite feed would get. So no time delay, no content problems at all. What you also see is...
It also feels quite old-fashioned, really, doesn't it, in the means of piracy, at least?
It's funny that you say that, because card sharing used to be on the demise. With the advent of higher speed internet all over the world, card sharing became less popular. And card sharing is basically card sharing sounds like a simple, but it is just in a few words. What it is that people sign up for a card sharing server that has that distributes the control word. The control word is allows for the encryption of the satellite feed, and it's an ingenious way to pirate satellite broadcast. But it was on the demise. It was gone at one point, and now you see that our channels are available on it again, and it's extremely popular. And one of the reasons is that we're all talking about OTT and IPTV and content through the internet, but there's always a bit of a delay involved with that. There's a lag. Quality is often very good, but nothing. But
because it's interesting, we hear about schemes like, you can probably elaborate on this further. Watermarking, for example.
Yeah.
I think of if I'm watching Sky's Premier League coverage, below the Sky Sports logo, up comes a number from time to time, which is possibly related to my smart card, perhaps, you know, and other people. We get it, so there's means to, I guess, identify when a feed is out there which shouldn't be. Are we saying that it's actually not able to turn them off? You know, I guess if you want to take down notice, it's going to take a few days to do that. The judge is not going to, you know, sit there on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday evening or whatever and say, yeah, you can take this down now. You know, what can you do to counter this, to make the pirates' lives more difficult?
Well, you have several strategies. At Nordic Counter Protection, we have three main. We have enforcement, we have influence, and we have disruption. And you can do it several ways. For example, disruption, you can have a dynamic IP block on streaming servers or authentication servers. That's a possibility. You can have, you can work within your own CDNs to make it harder for the pirates to get content. That's one way, and that's probably the best way to approach it, because it's easier to stop them from the source rather than when they.
So basically switching off the relay, as it were, rather than switching off the pirate. I guess has the same effect, of course.
Yeah, for example. Yeah. So, and you have also we are reporting cases with the police and tax authorities. So, and we are.
And do they take it serious? I know you're an ex-policeman yourself. Do the authority, you know, do they regard it as a major crime? But you know, where is it in their priorities, or is it not so much the piracy, but who's actually doing it and what else they could be doing?
Well, it's quite low priority. It is, but we are working on a public awareness campaign where we are focusing on the connection, the ties to organized crime, because it's no doubt it has ties to organized crime, financial ties.
I think it's the one I'm thinking of. It's running in, I guess, multiple territories, but you've got in Sweden, you've got some host of a TV crime show fronting the campaign. I guess his face will be well known to the Swedish viewers.
We have Lasse Haro, I think his name is. He's a prime personality. We have entertainment, and we have sports personalities communicating to the public through television, social media and so forth about the consequences of actually buying illegal TV. So that's something we are approaching now. We have launched it in Sweden this month, and we will launch it in Iceland and Denmark and Norway and that fall. So that's one approach. Yeah.
I found this super interesting because we as an industry talk about mitigation strategies, initiatives and everything. But I think in terms of cost benefit, like the investment and effort needed to have impact, like just those public service announcements, like I don't know how you felt about, probably back in the time, you have gotten a message like that this content is not supposed to be pirated. I think especially like pay-per-view events are very aggressive on that one. It makes you feel bad as a consumer. And I think we are talking about very sophisticated approaches and orchestration between different parties to limit the leakage. But I think easy things like that can actually have on the consumer, on the demand side, huge impact. And if there is no demand for piracy, then there will be a slow death on the supply side as well. But just on that one, I think it makes sense. And I think we can be more aggressive, including in Europe, including around football. I've never seen such a message around football, at least where I have consumed. But I see it a lot in like US-based, whether it's UFC, WWE, who really make a point and speaking to you like on a personal level.
Yeah. I think it's really important because, at least in Nordics, the thought about buying legal IP, that it's not seen as a crime. They're not supporting criminality, which they in fact do. But it's something that you can talk to everyone about without having any trouble around it.
And I guess, sometimes, unfortunately, it's, pay TV operators, big telcos often get perceived to be bad guys by consumers because of, some spurious problem they once had with customer services or whatever, So that doesn't help the story in terms of taking something away from somebody, because the consumers say, well, they can afford it, can't they? But so that doesn't make it any more right.
Yeah, they look at the logo and you think of the massive revenue.
Yeah.
But the logo represents workplaces, individuals who go to work every day. And they are at risk of losing their job if this piracy threat is increasing, as we see every year. It's increasing, at least in the Nordics.
Yeah.
So we have to take it seriously.
Henrik, it must vary for you from market to market as to what you can do, the reaction of law enforcement. Maybe you've got an example or two of things which you've done and have worked in one of your markets.
Yeah. So at the beginning, my role is about investigating the pirates. It's about investigating the supply side, basically, not so much the demand side. So what we do is we try to find out who people are behind the IPTV services, behind the live streaming websites. We do that unilaterally, we do that bilaterally with our partners. We've got quite a few cases going on in the Premier League in the Middle East and North Africa. And we do that multilaterally as part of membership organizations. But yeah, in quite a few countries we've got criminal referrals going and/or investigations. And but as you say, what you can do differs significantly per country. There's options to go to court in Algeria, Tunisia, Jordan. That is ongoing for us at the moment. But for example, we're also being pirated from Yemen, Cambodia. Those countries, and the thing about piracy, it transcends borders. So you can be a pirate organization operating, and it sounds maybe a little bit, Yemen. You don't associate that with piracy, but there is piracy coming from there, streaming websites, and they are very popular in Egypt, for example. So what are you going to do about that? That's a big problem.
I guess that there's a certain amount of cross-border discussions that you then need to have in order to match up the right organisation with the particular authorities in a territory in order to remove them from the system.
Yeah. There's dialogue going on.
How many? I'm wondering also collaborations with the rights holders, the football authorities. How much of that do you need in order to do your job? You
need your rights holders and all the broadcasters. We all need to work together, and we're doing that. We are part of, remember, ACE, the Alliance for Creativity and Entertainment, which is part of the Motion Pictures Association. We're a member of AAPA, which is the Audiovisual Anti-Piracy Alliance, which focuses mostly on Europe. We're a member of the International Intellectual Property Alliance, the MENA Satellite Broadcast Anti-Piracy Coalition, the Sports Coalition, which comprises the big sports leagues in the US.
And do you feel that work, it's having the conversations or the, what do you feel you get out of the memberships and those dialogues that then help you on the ground?
Really differs per organisation. Some are more operationally focused than others. AAPA is a very good organisation for us because it does a lot of lobbying on an EU governmental level. ACE is very operational, There's lots of other things that they're doing, but well, for example, with Premier League, they have their own investigators. We have our own investigators. We can work with vendors to investigate things. Then we can go to a lawyer firm to have a criminal referral initiated in a specific country. But you also need to work with law enforcement. We work with Europol, with Interpol. It's very hard to get something going on in a country like Jordan or Morocco without Interpol on board as well. So all those things are going on.
I just want to make a comment because you said where the fence is the lowest. Here we touched on cross-border impact. I think this is an important thing to consider that, okay, the domestic broadcasters of the Premier League, the Sky, the BTs, they will be on top of their game regarding having all the processes and technology in play that they minimize leakage. But ultimately it's a game of the weakest link in the chain. If you license in a certain territory, not for 1 billion like you do domestically, but for 1 billion, then chances are that also like investment is proportional in like technology, enforcement and processes. And if they have access to the international signal of the Premier League, I mean, worldwide for a global audience, that's all you need. So there's one weakness in the chain, and piracy is enabled on the supply side.
Yeah, we don't have any issues with the Premier League, but it's definitely true what you're saying. You only have to have one broadcast, don't protect their CDN, and the pirates will find that, and they will broadcast that. We see that. We see that in APAC a lot. Yeah,
and this is for us as a platform. So we want to innovate on the product side, and we can touch on that later. But purely on, or due to the fact that we are talking about third-party content in our case, we don't own the content. So I'm not saying that you can cut corners if it's your first-party content, but you are treating third-party content only. You should treat it with special caution. So when it comes to VPN, DRM, and I mean double clicking on VPN, you can secure different points along the chain, whether it's a purchase process, whether it's a video player, the CDN layer. So I think this, how we partner with broadcasters and rights holders is, okay, we will make sure that our stack is as airtight as possible, and then we put our partners in the position to actually act more upstream, like enforcement. Okay, we have watermarking, just that we can make sure that if there is leakage originating from one football, which is one more distribution channel, so it's one more potential leakage point, that at least we enable enforcement, even though we as a platform do not get into enforcement itself.
See, Yannick makes a good point about the sort of the leakage, if you like, from the weakest point in the chain. I guess the challenge is then to close that up. Is that easy? More easier said than done to do that? To tell a broadcaster that they've got to spend several £1,000s more on the equipment, although presumably a lot of the rights holders have minimum standards for what they're supposed to do.
It's not easy. It is. No, it's not. But it's possible. We are working now with our members to see how we can do it. And we have great results so far. And we can see live when we implement something. We can follow the match, the specific network that they are monitoring, for example. We can see the streams, and if we implement something, you can see the effects quite,
I've seen demonstrations for Netflix as an example, and I think it works the same principle of the map of the United States with the subscription over one side and the IP address over the other. It's getting, or some elements of this are getting easier to pin down.
And we talk about changes in practice right now that you can observe in the industry, and I think just tighter contractual language is actually something that at least we, because we are just downstream from the licensing agreements between broadcasters and rights holders, we negotiate distribution agreements, so like obligations are getting passed on. And previously there was this like this phrase, market standard security technology, right? Nobody really knew what it is, but you put it in the contract. today it's much more specific in terms of certain technology that you have to have implemented as part of the contractual obligation. So I think these are all different buttons that the industry tries to push in aggregate, makes it a bit tighter on the supply side, which doesn't solve that there's still a demand for having access, discovery, and everything as consumer.
That's useful. But let's look forward a bit, if we can. What are the emerging threats? You know, we've talked earlier on about like the return of card sharing as a threat. What else is there which is out there on the market still? What are the next threat around the corner?
That's a good question. I don't know if I have the answer to you. I think in Nordics, that's my perspective, we have IPTV, and that has been dominating for several years. We had card sharing before, and it's turned over to IPTV because of the high internet speeds we have and so forth. The threat is that to be able to watch everything legally, you have to purchase from several vendors, many vendors, and you do not have to do that with legal IPTV. And if we cannot stop the pirates' content, stealing the content, I can only see it go one way, that they continue to grow piracy. And I don't see any new threats, but of course it's a dynamic industry. We see different methods of stealing content.
And demographics, I wonder if that plays a part as well. The older end of the demographic still pretty much used to watching SVT, BBC, RTL, wherever they might be, but of course at the younger end it's a whole different way of consumption. And I don't know, I just wonder if there's a danger of the piracy getting ingrained at that younger age.
What we see is an increase of how do you say specific. I said in Dutch, the specification of labor. So basically, what you see is that piracy is almost a career for many young people in the markets that we operate. And what we see is something like piracy as a service. So there's I can't find the word, but of labor, where people are focusing not on offering the entire piracy solution.
Division of labor.
Division of labor, yeah. So, but you can just go to an online marketplace and you can buy a website template for $20 that allows you to restream our channels and many other broadcasters' channels very easily. You purchase a business model. The barriers to entry are very low.
It's sort of a white label service for pirates.
Yeah. I think that is a trend. Another trend I would quickly mention is what we call offshore hosting providers. So there's hosting. In order to run a piracy service, you need to use intermediaries. An important intermediary is a hosting provider. Hosting providers are some of them are dedicated to piracy, and in order not to be targeted by notices and takedowns or investigations or any other sort of enforcement, what they do is they're hiding themselves. They're criminal enterprises. You used to be able to find who at least owns a hosting provider very easily through the open web, through open source intelligence hosting. Nowadays, you need an entire investigation just to find out who owns the hosting provider, because they're registered on the Virgin Islands or Hong Kong or whatever. And so that's a trend. So all the parts of the piracy operation are very much trying to hide. They're aware of what we're doing, what the alliances are doing, and it's making life more difficult.
Maybe tying up those two trends that we identified, I think you are referring to the professionalization of this whole piracy industry, while we just identified that more and more of the consumer market will be made up by digital natives who probably feel more used but also comfortable with reverting to those kind of solutions. I think it should only increase the urgency of the industry to find solutions, because there is some lag in there, but ultimately it will trickle down to the monetary value that broadcasters can attach, because ultimately in the long run you can only spend what you earn. You can always in the short term pay premiums strategically or whatever, but at some point it will trickle down.
Yes.
And maybe, and there are huge fundamental differences between the sport and music industry, but the music industry needed to have a revenue pullback market-wide to rethink the business model, and now they are on a growth trajectory again. I hope the sports industry doesn't need this revenue pullback as an industry in order to, I don't know, right-size the cost base and come up with new models that are more accessible and affordable. So better we act now, but it will come back to ultimately the market size of the rights holders, because ultimately you can only spend what you earn.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, well look, thank you all very much. The time is sort of ticking away here, so we should probably wrap up at this point. But thank you everyone for participating in the panel this afternoon, and thank you as well for staying with us. We are back tomorrow morning. I think there's coffee around from 8:30, so that's a good excuse to come in. And an hour later, of course, we'll be getting underway. I think actually it's a fraction earlier than that. We're getting underway with some more sessions. So we'll see you then. Thank you very much.